Today my guest is the scholar, literary theorist, and author Stephen Greenblatt. Professor Greenblatt is John Cogan University Professor of the Humanities at Harvard University. He is one of the world's foremost Shakespeare scholars and the inventor of the literary field known as the New Historicism. When you were in college, you became interested in drama. And, I mean, you're still interested in drama, obviously, but then acting, theater, and actually thought seriously about becoming an actor. What deterred you from that course?
It was actually in high school that my theater mania was probably at its most intense, because somehow it didn't interfere with it, with the rest of my life. But when I went to college, I immediately thought that that's what I would do, would be a student actor. And I went and tried out for I was at Yale, I tried out for the Yale Dramat, and I think I got a part, but then they gave me the schedule, and not just a schedule, but they made it absolutely clear to me that if I wanted to be serious about this, or if I wanted to participate at all, this had to come first. I just loved my classes, and I loved, I was exploding with interest in them. This was the Yale of the 1960s. There actually weren't in my world at that time so many students who were actually wildly turned on as I was to my classes, particularly the English classes, but not only those. So I felt a kind of volcanic excitement about my classes. As I say, also, I was competitive about grades. In fact, I was absolutely in love with my English teacher, a man who's only recently died named Martin Price, a wonderful writer and scholar, and he knew that I was turned on to my freshman English class, so he asked if I would be his research assistant, bursary boy, they called it in those days. So I would love to do that, I said, and in order to be a bursary student, I had to apply through the financial aid's office. I didn't have financial aid at Yale, and I went into the financial aid's office, must have been November of my freshman year. I think I had a Yale sweatshirt on at that point. I was quite happy there. And the financial aid's officer looked at me and said after 30 seconds in the office, "Greenblatt's a Jewish name, isn't it?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Well, frankly, we're sick and tired of the number of Jews who are coming into this office trying to wheedle money out of Yale University."
Wow.
And I said something like that. I mean, that was, of course, my parents' paranoid account of the world, but it was not my experience at all. I'd never bumped into anything like this before. And I think I said something very heroic, like, "How can you make such a generalization?" He said, "What do you think of Sicilians, Mr. Greenblatt?" They called you Mr. in those days. I said, "I don't think I know any Sicilians." He said, "Well, J. Edgar Hoover," you remember that was the head of the FBI at the time, "J. Edgar Hoover has statistics that show that Sicilians as a people have criminal tendencies. And we at Yale have statistics that show that too many Jews are coming into this office." So I said, "I got it."
Did you tell Martin Price about this encounter?
I thought I was going to cry.
Yeah.
And I muttered a few other things. And he said something like, "We could people this whole school with graduates of the Bronx High School of Science, but we don't choose to do so." I said, "I'm not from the Bronx, I'm from Newton, Massachusetts." And I fled the office, and I told Martin Price, who was very upset. And then I called my parents, I called my father, and told them. And my father said, "Look, you have a choice. We can make a big deal about this. And it could occupy you. That will be your experience as an undergraduate, will be this fight that we'll have. Or you can just register it." He wouldn't use the phrase "suck it up," but you can register it. I'll write a nasty letter to this man. You can forget about it and go on, and it won't be the determining experience of your undergraduate years. And that's what I think you should do. So I thought about it, and that's what I did. I'm not proud of having done that, but it was, and the only interest of the story is that it's a window onto that moment. It was a moment in which not just Jews, but Catholics and blacks and women were really not completely welcomed in these worlds. They were the beginnings of their infiltration. A year later, the president of Yale changed, Kingman Brewster came in, the winds of the 1960s were blowing, and the whole
It was a total
world I'm
change.
describing changed.
Yeah.
And I certainly wouldn't, my experience was nothing compared with lots of people's experiences, but I had a little whiff. And I'm not sorry at this point that I had a little whiff. Winds were blowing in the 1960s through me and through the university and through my generation that in any case would have swept me along in a different direction. And after all, from a certain perspective, the new criticism was a great liberation, because the new criticism meant, look, it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter whether you're black or white or woman or man, a Jew or a Gentile. If you have you and the text and you can read it without any further knowledge and you can read it cleverly, you're home free. And that was actually a good thing. So it would be a mistake to imagine that what I regarded as constricting in the 1960s and 70s was prima facie wicked. It wasn't at all. But it was constricting in my view.
It was
in
constricting.
the view of my generation. It felt close, and I don't at all regret the absolutely magnificent education I didn't take full advantage of it, but I had a wonderful education at Yale in the new criticism, a wonderful formalist education.
Well, I want to thank you very much, Stephen Greenblatt, for giving us your time today and your insights.
You're welcome, Paula. Thank you for having me.
And thank you for joining us today at the Drexel interview.